Let's get started.
Winner of the Best Sports Report Award from the Intercollegiate Broadcasting System.
The voice of Nassau Community College.
This is the award-winning 90.3 WHPC.
WHPC HD Garden City. Available on the iHeartRadio app.
I remember finding out about you.
90.3 WHPC. From the press boxes on your radio or your listening device, my name is Rob Leonard. Joining me, of course, is my brother and award-winning sports writer, Tim Leonard. Hello,
How you doing?
brother. How you doing?
I'm good. It's fine Memorial Day, brother.
Happy Memorial Day. Remember our troops. And
Thank them for all they've done.
as well, they should deserve it. And we're going to talk sports as we do every Monday.
Oh, you all right?
Yeah.
You
Just
sound,
Just thinking.
sound a little impacted or something.
I'm not impacted. Well, maybe a little bit. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for listening. You're hearing us on the iHeartRadio app, seeing us on Facebook on my page, the Rob Leonard page, and this show will be a podcast later on Spreaker and iTunes. So you want to hear it again or miss part of it and come back later? You can. Now, last week, we go off the air at 10 o'clock, and so many things happen at 10 o'clock.
Crazy.
Part of it because it's the beginning of the week. Part of it because it's 10 o'clock. They don't have these meetings at 9 o'clock. They have or press conferences or releases. It's always 10 o'clock because people do have to get up, even though we're up at 9 o'clock, damn it. And I don't even know where to start, brother. Because
here's the thing that last week, all right? The one thing that you can count on from us is a snapshot for what could happen later in the week or even later in the day.
maybe. I mean,
Because-
I want to start.
Because last week, I'm just going to mention this, and then we can start wherever you want to start. But last week, we were talking about Garth Snow and how he needed to go, and how the Islanders needed better leadership in the decision-making capacity.
Yes.
And so what happens? Hours, not even hours, maybe
Minutes.
an hour
Minutes.
after we went off the air last week, the Islanders brought in a consummate professional named Lou Lamoriello.
Yep.
Who was the general manager and vice president for the Devils when they won a bunch of Stanley Cups.
Yes.
So a fine move was made finally, but we can get into that a little bit later. I do want to start with this because all right. So there you go. See, I'm anticipating.
It's the Islanders, and so much has been said about them, and nothing's been done, and finally they do something. To me, one of the things this does is, first of all, Lou Lamoriello is, 75?
75. He's up there.
Yeah, so this is going to be a short-term thing, most likely. That doesn't mean he can't play till 85 or 90 or whatever.
Well, he's not going to be playing.
You know what I mean? Be GM or
well,
whatever.
Yeah,
or head of hockey operations.
But it's a matter of how long does he want to do it? That's the other thing. And the other issue here that's involved is the Lamoriello's son is involved in he's like an assistant GM. I mean, he's a higher up in the Islanders hierarchy.
Right. So he's here already.
Yeah. So chances are, at some point over the next few years, Lou Lamoriello will hand it over to his son, and his son will continue as far as
I don't know if they're similar
dad's work.
I don't know if there's similar types of if they have a thought process. One of my problems with Lou Lamoriello over the years has always been, it's the system more than the players. So he would.
I would disagree with that.
No, he wasn't a star maker, the way, the Islanders had. Besides great teams, they had real stars. Think about
you're talking back in the dynasty.
Yeah,
days.
you're talking about Trottier, Bossy, Gillies,
Potvin.
Billy Smith, Potvin. Those are stars, and they're also in the Hall of Fame. So. Maybe not Gillies. I'm not sure.
I don't think Gillies is in the Hall of Fame.
But Lou never was really like that when he ran the Devils.
Well, part of it was because
So I don't think at this point it's going to matter. But
I mean I understand what you're saying, but part of that was that at the time when you're talking about with the Devils, the shift had just come into vogue.
That's true, yeah.
As a National Hockey League style of play. I would disagree about not being a star maker, because you could say that Scott Gomez back then was a star. The Devils, that Devils team or those Devils teams were very similar to the Islanders teams of the early 80s because they were solid. I covered a lot of those teams. I know. But they were solid up and down the lineup. It was 3 and 4 good lines. The one line that they had was, Patrick Elias is a star. He's going to the Hall of Fame. He was on a line with Jason Arnott and who was the other guy? Peter Sikora, who was a star. So it was great defense, a defensive mindset for sure, but also some very reliable, dependable, and outstanding offensive players.
Right.
So I would disagree that it was all about system.
Well, a lot of it was, though.
Plus, Lou Lamoriello's been around long enough, obviously, at 75, where you got to believe that he's flexible, and he's going to allow his talent to dictate the way the team plays.
One thing that I was very happy to hear is that he had already talked to John Tavares, who has to be re-signed.
Went to Toronto to talk to him.
And, he was in Toronto. He was working for the Maple Leafs. So, to me, it's very important that the Islanders re-sign John Tavares and that the general manager wants to re-sign him and that the ownership wants to re-sign him. One thing we did find out, though, this week is that Garth Snow still has 4 more years on a contract, which means he had like a 15-year contract.
I don't even understand how that's possible.
What was wrong with Charles Wang that he gave out 2 15-year contracts to 2 people who didn't deserve it? DiPietro and Garth Snow.
Wasn't DiPietro's for 10 years?
10 years. It wasn't 10. I thought it was 15.
Way more than it should have been.
It was still more than it should have been.
DiPietro stole money.
Yeah, and
now he steals money on the radio.
Yeah, so I was disappointed to find out about Garth Snow. He's still going to be around. There is a rumor though that he will be selling hot dogs up in Bridgeport, and also being a scout up there. So
it's possible.
We hear that they give a little more on the hot dog break than at the Barclays Center.
Here's what I don't like about this, and this is what came out after the Lamoriello thing was announced. I'm actually just going to read this. I to be honest, I don't remember where I got this from, but it was here. I'm just going to read. Snow reportedly has a contract from previous owner Charles Wang with a considerable financial compensation trigger if he is removed from his job, which made removing him financially disadvantageous in previous seasons. But this season saw a significant uptick in criticism for the executive as Snow Must Go appeared in chants during Islanders home games and on billboards purchased by fans around Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Now, I'm pretty sure that was from Andrew Gross of Newsday, formerly of the Bergen Record, who was a friend of the show, as a matter of fact.
He's been on the show.
So, I mean, there's no specifics on this in terms of, okay, this is what the number was, and this is why it was financially disadvantageous. But what must that number be? It's got to be huge. And because if it was like $5 million, pay it. Get rid of the guy.
I agree.
Because he hasn't done his job. But how does anybody who is as poor at his job as Garth Snow has been for the last decade, how does he get that kind of financial compensation trigger?
And how does a guy get that type of financial payment where he had no proof of being anything but a goalie, and they just brought him up? He said, "Okay, you're now our general manager."
Well, I mean, he got to the playoffs what? Once, twice. Twice in one series.
Why not pull a guy off the street and say, "Okay, you're GM"? It's the same thing.
Me, I'm ready.
You're ready. Tim Leonard could have done it. I mean,
I'm 20-something years younger than Charles and than Lou Lamoriello. I'm ready to go.
Oh, I just didn't get, as much as Charles Wang saved the Islanders, him and Sanji, Kumar was his name? I forget.
I don't know.
He ended up going to jail or something. But Charles Wang really basically saved the Islanders. Now, the reason I say that is because I saw that Spano thing a few
I was
weeks
going to say
ago.
that was John Spano.
It's Spano that's him, and
Did Sanjay go to jail?
I thought he
seriously.
did.
I don't even know, but the Islanders would lead the league in owners who went to jail.
Yeah. So somehow Charles Wang saves the Islanders. Let's be honest.
And I give him credit for that.
in
All the credit in the world.
2002,
Thank you, Charles Wang.
I had a Thursday season ticket package with our friend Rob Tuck, and it was. Every time they'd show video of him or they'd show him in the owner's box, people would go crazy cheering.
Loved him.
They loved him. And, it was great to go to an Islander game again where it was sold out. It was just...
He was the most popular Wang in New York since Chin Ming Wang.
And I'm like, here's a guy who really blew it. Because then he wanted to do the real estate deal with the Coliseum, which was a good idea.
That was the whole purpose for anybody owning the Islanders.
Well, he
was
never
to try
said
to
that
put,
at the beginning.
To try to put a hotel deal together at Nassau Coliseum and turn that area into a big shopping district. That was the whole motivation for anybody who. That was why Bruce Ratner bought the Islanders or tried to buy the Islanders. That's why everything happened around the Islanders. And then when they decided they needed a new building because the building, the Coliseum was dated and crappy, then all of a sudden it was like, oh, we need to move to Brooklyn.
Yeah. So
and that was the problem, and that's why I give current ownership credit, Ledecky, and who was the other guy? We always forget the other guy's name.
I don't know.
We looked it up last week. I'll look it up again.
I will. By the way, just out of Newsday, 2017, Sanjay Kumar, former chairman and chief executive of Computer Associates, has been released from federal prison in Miami after serving 10 years for orchestrating a $2.2 billion accounting fraud scheme. Kumar, 55, a former co-owner of
we
the
don't need to know
Islanders,
the rest of it. Who cares?
was sentenced in 2006 to 12 years.
There was a fraud. So, all right. So the Islanders lead the league in owners going to jail. That's nice. All right. Way to go. How sad is that?
What happened to Roy Bowe?
I don't know. Maybe he went to jail.
No, he
I don't know. Did he?
I know he didn't, but he's...
Roy Bowe got old. That's what happened.
Well, no,
to him.
he had no money. That was the problem.
Well, he had more ambition than money, and he had the Nets and the Islanders, and nowadays, if you had those two franchises, and I mean, first of all, you'd have a lot more money than Roy Bowe had,
right?
But Roy Bowe, he could have and should have been on the financial cusp of franchise values exploding.
Yes,
he wound up getting out a little bit before that happened.
Yeah,
so too bad, Roy Bowe.
Well, he was stealing from the Islanders to pay for
that's the other thing.
The Nets. Okay, his name is Scott Malkin.
Malkin, that's
We
what it
keep
was.
forgetting
Malkin.
him. John Ledecky, because Ledecky goes on the train, says hello to the fans.
I know Ledecky because his niece or whatever, Katie Ledecky, the swimmer, Olympic swimmer, won all his gold
really?
medals.
Okay,
that's the only reason I remember him.
Okay.
Malkin, I should remember because there's a guy in the Penguins named Malkin, Evgeny Malkin. So, but those two guys, they got involved because they wanted to buy a franchise. They had no allegiance to the Islanders. They both of these guys are from D.C., but they wanted a franchise, and they have the money to do it. Now, they're getting the arena in Belmont, and that's going to be the kind of thing that every Islanders owner has wanted, since Roy Bowe probably, to build basically a shopping, apartments, hotels. They want to. Everybody wants to build, and they want to build it around a franchise. So these guys are going to get that done, or at least seemingly are going to get that done. Let's not put the cart before the horse here, or let's not put the skyscraper before the franchise. But that right now is the plan, and the right politicians and everybody have signed up, and everybody's on board. So this apparently is going to get done.
It's going to be a fun arena. My only qualm will be getting there.
Every place has issues.
Yeah,
of some kind.
One thing about the Coliseum, you get on the Parkway pretty damn quick.
Well,
yeah,
because it's right there.
Yeah, and this Cross Island is, I used to go to work through that way. It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah,
that is not an open area.
Figure that late at night after games it'll be fine. Before games, it's going to be a nightmare because there's going to be a ton of traffic.
People are going to go east on Hempstead Turnpike. That's going to be a problem.
Here, let me point out one more thing before we get off the hockey.
Okay.
Lou Lamoriello, I am promising you this, will not want to be the general manager who lost John Tavares.
No.
He didn't sign up for that. So I'm sure that when Lou Lamoriello was in Toronto and talked to John Tavares, that the one thing that he told him was, look, if you want to come back to Long Island, if you want to be an Islander for life, or at least the next 6 or 7 years, then we're going to get this done. I'm sure he didn't say to him, well, we're going to try to get it done. He told him, I am absolutely 100% sure,